building the courthouse. That courthouse was built in 1845 and it still uses the town's courthouse. The Navy Portland building on the right hand side, which was Australian Navy Cadets building. Many years ago it used to be a kiosk. And the wings on each end of it were baking sheds. Now on my left hand side there's a fence. If you look through that fence you'll notice a blue grilled gate. When the Harbour Board made this road they moved the big tunnel. That tunnel goes right at the top near the courthouse where there used to be a very large jail. In the 1850s Victoria then was still part of New South Wales, and in those days to go from here to South Australia you used to have to pay a tax called capitation tax. You used to have to pay £10. Couldn't pay the £10 to go from state to state, you were an illegal immigrant and you were put into jail. Instead of that time being the gold rush times, that the Chinese illegal immigrants have built the tunnel. There was also a stockade there. Now on the left hand side, the hotel to the left, the Portland Hotel. That hotel has the longest continuous licence in Victoria. Now this spare space of ground here on the right hand side of the Portland Anglican Club, on my left hand side, that used to be the site of the Portland railway station. That was when Portland had steam trains. And the building on the corner there behind that big pine tree, which is called the Old London, it was a hotel again that was built in the 1840s. And opposite it are two other bluestone buildings that were built in the 1850s as Edward Henty and his brother Stephen's wool stores. As we cross over the road here, immediately to my left, there's a large wooden pile in the ground. That is the original pile of the railway or ocean pier, which was built in 1902. Used to go from there out to 3/4 of a mile out to sea, and on it used to go the steam trains delivering the goods to the steamships and the sailing ships. Now the blue glass window building on my left, which is the Richmond Henty Hotel, that hotel was built on the site of Edward Henty's first house. A picture of that house is in the Immigration Museum in Melbourne. Now, Richmond Henty was Edward Henty's nephew. He was the firstborn child in Portland. He was born in 1836. Now Edward Henty, although he did marry, he did not have any children. Right hand side there's an information centre. I've got their flag up the top and there's a crossbar. During the whaling season, which is predominantly in the winter time and early spring, they put a flag up on the crossbar. If there's a flag sighted on the left hand side of the harbour, or one on the right hand side for in the harbour itself, or at Pivot Beach or the Smelter Beach or at Cape Bridgewater. There's it's the wrong time of the year for the southern right whales and the other whales, except the blue whales. They're sighted in the summertime, but only past Lawrence Rock out of the bay, and they're only noticed by large ships or helicopters in the summertime. Now the church to the left, which is the All Saints Catholic Church, was built in 1857. The dome and the spire was built 30 years later. The money for the original dome and spire was donated by a lady whose husband and all her 3 sons had all got drowned at sea on different occasions. That original dome and spire was painted about 7 years ago, as the spire, which was just made of iron, had all gone rusty. Then they replaced that spire about 3 years later because it leaked. Now this Gothic building here was built in the 1800s as a convent, the convent of the Loreto nuns. They had one famous nun, Mary MacKillop, who was made the first saint of Australia. She worked there as a governess for 2 years and taught there for 2 years before she went on to Benola in South Australia. In the late 1970s, the nuns become relatively scarce, and that building turned into a private co-educational secondary school. Now on my right hand side, there's vehicles are parked. You see 3 rubbish bins there with red lids. Beside it there's a fish cleaning table. Now what we're going up now used to be the old railway cutting. The steam train used to come up here every day with passengers and goods on their way to and from Ararat. The steam train used to go underneath this bluestone bridge or overpass. This is where the white boards are, which shows how much they built it up. But then if you look across the other side of the road, you'll see that it drops down again into a cutting. You follow that cutting through, cross over the road twice, and you're back onto the railway lines again. Now this beach here on the right hand side, it is called Nuns Beach. It is named after those Loreto nuns who had their own bathing boxes on the beach. Of course in those days they had to be separate from the public. It is a very safe swimming beach. We don't even patrol it. Now on the right hand side there are 2 bluestone walls. They've got some plaques on it. Those plaques have been put off by relatives or friends of family of relatives who have drowned locally. On the left hand side it's a large 2-storey building called Seaview House. It is a 60-bed special accommodation unit with like a hostel, and it's for people who cannot fend for themselves at home. So lots of buildings back is the nursing home, and then on the right hand side is the hospital. Now on the right hand side there's a triangular piece with an 8